Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is the 14th in our series of monthly webinars on key areas of NAV and Business Central. And you can sign up for as many of these webinars as you like on our website. I'll show you the list of upcoming webinars at the end of this session, and we also send out regular emails to register for the next one. My name is Danusha, and I'll be facilitating the webinar today. I'm the marketing manager here at T-Vision, and I've worked here for nearly 2.5 years, but I've been working in the product and software marketing industry for over 15 years now. Ian will be doing the demo, and he's our support consultant here at T-Vision. He's been working for about 2.5 years or so, and has been using NAV since 2000. So, there are many new features in Business Central in the April release, and we've tried to put them into 5 specific areas. We can't show you every new feature, so we're going to be showing the ones which are most applicable to most companies. These 5 areas are the setup, some general information, personalization, navigation and views, order processing and inventory. And just as an aside, we're also going to touch quickly on quick entry. Whilst it's not an area by itself, it is functionality that appears throughout the solution and therefore deserves a mention. It was available in a more limited form in previous versions, but has been improved upon in the latest version of Business Central. I'm now going to briefly show you a slide for each area, but I won't be going through it in each feature in detail. We'll be saving that for Ian's demo. I just want you to be able to have a look at what each area includes, and it's there so you can review the detail in later on at your leisure when the recording is sent out after the event. So, first of all, setup. There are various points here about changing the default theme, the schedules for upgrade, the availability on the sandbox, the standard API, Smart Autosave indicator, and the improved Tell Me feature. In general, it's about the number of characters you can use, copying customized dimensions, adding shortcut dimension values, editing the description field, and emailing and resending remittance advice. Under personalization, navigation and views, there are a number of items here that you will find interesting and you can use at your leisure and read it later on. Under order processing, you can select multiple items at once, set date formula, reference external document numbers, and notify if a corrective memo has been created. Under inventory, we talk about and can show you the increase in productivity, bulk item, and configuring reports. On quick entry, we've got the alternate path, how it can be personalized, and showing you the personalization menu. So now over to Ian for the demo. Ian, over to you.
Thanks, Danusha. Hi, everyone. As Danusha said, there's a lot of changes happening in Business Central. I'm just going to highlight the ones which I think are really interesting. But if I skip over something that you want to hear more about, by all means, ask a question. You can type that in the question box or give us a call afterwards if there's something you'd like more detail about. So starting up, I'm using a default Business Central web client, and this is the very latest version, the April release, so it's only a few weeks old. I've logged in at the moment as an accountant. I can see that up at the top here. One of the nice features on Business Central, if I want to change my view, I want to look at sales order processing or something like that. Under old NAV, an administrator would have to change that for me. Here, I've got my options tab. I can change my settings. I'm logged in as an accountant. I can go and choose any other role that is applicable to me. So if I wanted to be a business manager, I could choose that. It would change my screen in the background. I can change my company, set my work date, and choose the language and the way I want my dates and numbers to appear, etc. I'll leave this as accountant for now. One of the first things that Danusha mentioned in those slides on the setup was the Smart Autosave indicator. So when you're using the web client, there's always the worry you're typing something in, is it actually being saved? So if we go and look at something, let's go and look at a vendors. And if I open any one of these vendors, I'll notice up at the top here, it tells me that the information on this screen has been saved. If I go and change something, I'll just change this company's name, small change. And you'll notice as soon as I tab out of this field, this indicator is going to change at the top, and it tells me it's saving the information, and it's saved. So I know now that anyone else who logs in and they look at this vendor, they're going to see exactly what I've put in here. So this you will notice on all of the master data. So if you change items, customers, vendors, resources, etc., it will always tell you if your information has been saved. If you're halfway through editing something and you're disturbed by a colleague, they walk away and you want to close the screen, you'll see up there an indicator that it's not saved. Business Central is smart, it will save it for you when you exit, but you can just tab off the field, see that saved icon, and you know that your work is there. So that's the first thing. It's cosmetic, but it gives you peace of mind. Some of the more interesting changes that have happened. Vendor names, customer names, item descriptions, resource descriptions, etc. In the past, these have been limited to 50 characters. So for some long names and descriptions, especially wine customers with very long item names, you had to abbreviate things to fit them in. That's been moved up to 100 characters. You can see here I've created a vendor with a ridiculously long name. That's actually a real vendor, by the way. And that's about 85 characters long. As I say, the system can go up to 100 characters. And these extended descriptions, that's not just on the master data. If you're capturing a journal and you were limited to a 50 character description, you can now enter a 100 character description, so you can give a little bit more narrative to your entries as to what's going on, makes things easier to find later on. Another really nice change for anybody who works with jobs. Let's just open the jobs and let me take numlock off my keyboard. Oh dear, sorry. So jobs, if I go and look at my jobs, let's just create a new job. I'm not going to put anything exciting in there. We'll just give it a description of test. If I look at this job, if I look at its dimensions, it has no dimensions. As soon as I add a customer to this job, let's add this customer. As soon as I tab off that field, the job has been updated with that customer's default dimensions. So this means that going forwards, anything that I post against this job, it's going to bring through those dimensions that are set up against this customer. If this is a mistake and you change the customer, it will change the dimensions. So you're not relying on an end user to remember to go in and change dimensions. It's going to take it by default from the customer, and you're going to know that your transactions are always in sync with each other. No need to do journals later on if somebody forgot to put in a dimension. Another nice feature that's been added on this system, if we just have a quick look at my general ledger setup so I can show you. And if we go into my general ledger setup, you can see that I've got my two global dimensions, department and customer group. I've added two more dimensions for area and project. You can add up to 8 named dimensions. And the very nice thing that happens now, if we go in to look at a sales order, for instance, and when we're looking at a sales order, on any of the lines on this sales order, if I scroll along to the dimensions, all of those dimensions now become available on the line. So in the past, where you were perhaps limited to just the first 2 dimensions, and you had to go up and click on dimensions to enter any extended dimensions, now they're just available here. And if I go and change my general ledger setup and add another dimension, the next time I come into this screen, there'll be another column with that dimension added. So it just makes that data capture so much easier. you can see on every line that the dimensions have been captured and that they are correct. Another really nice feature, quite a few of our clients in the past have asked us even to customize this to make this possible. Now it's available by default. If we go and look at our general ledger entries, we can do this by drilling down into the entries on the general ledger. We could have searched for general ledger entries up here. Let's just go and have a look at rent. If I drill into that, I have my descriptions here, and they've all been entered very nicely, except last month, somebody just took the default description. They didn't say what this was for. It would be nice if I could change that. Old nav on a posted document, you weren't able to. Nice new feature now. I can change that and give it the correct description. And you'll notice up in the top corner, it's saved that change, so anybody who looks at the GL, they will now see that new description. So again, that gives you that chance to correct something afterwards without doing journals to get correct descriptions in. That's a very nice feature. I'm glad they've added that one. Next thing I want to show you is on any of the entry screens. So it could be sales orders, could be purchase orders. I think let's go and look at purchase orders since I've got a shortcut sitting there. If we look at one of these purchase orders, one of the annoying things, this area in the middle of the screen where I enter the items that I'm buying, I'm kind of limited to 4 rows. As I add extra rows, it will extend a little bit, but there's not enough screen real estate for me here to work with. Now I can turn off my fact boxes at the side. That gives me a little bit more space, but I'm still limited on the number of rows. A very nice new feature that's been added here is this focus view button. And if I click on that, it is just going to extend the lines that I am capturing. So now I can capture up to about 20 lines quite comfortably on a single screen before I have to start scrolling. Again, if you're capturing orders that have a lot of lines, this is really useful. When I'm finished here, I can go back to my sales order, to my purchase order, change the dates, any currencies, etc. That focus view just makes it a lot easier to do that capturing for sales, for purchases, anywhere where you have this kind of embedded list view in a capture screen. Everywhere where you've got information about vendors or customers, in the fact boxes, some extra information has been added. So, you know, the balance and the outstanding balance, etc., they've always been there. Now we have last payment date, which you can drill into and see a history of payments to this vendor, or if it was customers, history of payments from them. And I've got my fast tiles to look at my open orders and invoices and my posted documents against this vendor or this customer. So these fact boxes have been improved a little to contain some more useful information. Another really nice feature, this is something that has been available in older versions of Nav, and it's also been now improved upon in Business Central. Not everybody is aware of this. The registers. So there are a lot of registers on the system. One of them is general ledger registers. This is where I can see what's been posted on my system, and this creation date column is the actual real live date that the transaction was posted, not necessarily the posting date on the transaction. So if I'm looking for a transaction which I know I posted on the 23rd of the 4th, I can come and find everything here, even though this transaction itself, the posting date might have been for February or March. This is the actual date it was done. And what's been added in the latest releases, the time that it was created has also been added. So I've got an awful lot of transactions posted by somebody on the 23rd of the 4th. If I know it's a transaction that was posted about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I can scroll down this list until I come to 3 o'clock, and I can actually find those transactions a lot quicker. There are registers for the general ledger, VAT entries, item entries, etc. And that time has been added to all of them. Another nice feature, we were looking at sales, purchase orders and sales orders just now. Let's go and have a look at purchase orders again. When I am capturing a document, whether it's a journal or a source document such as an order, the work date that I have set is displayed up at the top of the screen. So when I create a new order, it's going to use the document date of whatever I have up here, and I can understand why it's calculating due dates, etc. based on this. So that's just a nice visual indicator of what my work date is. And if I was to use a W shortcut to enter a date, that's the date that it's going to put into that field. So that's just a small thing, but it's a nice indicator of what's going on in your system. Now I'm going to come back to an order capture screen. I'm on purchase orders, so let's open this one up. And that error message that keeps popping up, don't worry about it, it's because I haven't set up my cash flow 100% on the system yet. On this screen, perhaps I want to buy multiple items from Fabricam. I can enter them line by line here, as I've always done in the past. I can make my life a little bit easier. I can go into focus mode where I can capture things a little bit better. But one of the things that I can now do is select items. So here, it's going to give me a list of all the items that I might possibly want to buy. And I can select, we're also going to buy this, 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 and this. And when I say OK, it inserts all those lines for me. Now I can just go and put in the quantities. So again, this makes my purchase order and sales order capturing a whole lot faster if I'm capturing big orders. This is a very nice feature. Also on the order processing side, if you use quotations, not everybody does, but if you do use them, there is some new functionality that has been added. If you go and look at your sales and receivables setup page, for example, there's a quote validity calculation. So I've said any quotes that I generate on this system are valid for 7 days. And then it gives me a very nice visual indicator if I go and look at my sales quotes. And hopefully I've got them there. Yep. So I've got 2 sales quotes here for a Dorton Corporation, and it's showing me in red that this one has expired. I can drill into that one, and it shows me this quote was valid up until the 15th of the 3rd, which is long before my work date, whereas the other quote is valid until the 15th of the 4th, which is after my work date. So you could put a filter on this screen as well to only show quotes that are valid. If you're using quotes, that's some nice functionality that has been added in. And then a really nice feature for anybody who's in accounts receivable or accounts payable. If we go and look at, let's say, our posted sales invoices, I can see on this posted sales invoice, nope, that's not a good one to choose. This posted sales invoice down here, the original amount and the remaining amount, it's still there. It's awaiting payment or awaiting a credit note or something. I can go into this, I can see what was ordered, and perhaps this customer has phoned up and said, no, they want to return these guest chairs for a credit. We can do corrections. So correct will delete this one and recreate a new one with exactly the same information, which I can edit. I can cancel the entire document, or I can create a corrective credit memo. Let's do that. It's just for the first line, so I'm going to delete these 2 lines. Go ahead. And if I post this, so it's pretty quick and easy to do credit memos now, I can see that the outstanding balance has declined. But if someone else in the accounts receivable section, they also see the email that they want a credit note, they come in, they say, oh, let me go make a corrective credit memo. It pops up a warning to say that there's already a credit memo against this. I can see what has been applied, go and look at the source document if I wish. I can cancel, or I can go ahead and create a credit memo anyway. This is really nice. It prevents duplication of credit memos, which is a bit of a boon for accounts receivable and accounts payable stuff. On the inventory side, if we go and look at our items, and you will notice that I keep using the search button up here instead of going through the menus. Another area that has been improved, this search has got a whole lot better. You need to type less and it comes back with more relevant entries towards the top instead of grouping them in order. So that's why I like to use this now. But if we go and look at our items, oh, we've got a fancy picture view here. Let's turn that into a list view that we're more used to. I can look at any one of these items, and let's have a look at this swivel chair, for instance. And I might be in the warehouse. I can see the system tells me that there are 3 in the warehouse. I look at the shelf and I can actually see there are 4 on the shelf. This is incorrect. So in the past, someone would have to go and do an inventory journal or a physical inventory journal to change the stock here. What we can do now, we can directly adjust inventory from this screen. And I can say, no, there's actually 4 on the shelf. I say OK, and it has posted a journal for me. If I go and look at the history on this item, I can actually see there is that positive adjustment. If I really wanted to, I could navigate on this screen. I could look at the entries that have been posted. I could eventually get to the general ledger entries where I would see these same descriptions. I could modify, because of that new change, the description on the general ledger to say adjusted by Ian Robinson, stock count ad hoc or something like that, just so anybody looking in the future, they would know where that entry came from. So that's nice and easy for your warehouse staff to correct inventory if they need to. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is quick entry. As Danisha mentioned, this has been set up all over the system. We were looking at purchase orders just now. Let's go back to purchase orders. We'll look at it there. Here's this purchase order that we were fiddling with. Let's go up to that full screen view where it's much nicer. So traditionally in Nav, when you've entered an item number, you press tab, it takes you to the next cell. Tab to the next cell, tab, and now I can enter the quantity that I want to supply. With quick entry, instead of pressing tab, if you press the enter key, and ouch, if I press the enter key, and in a live demo, it isn't set up properly, and I do apologize. If I had that set up properly, I think I set it up for sales orders, not purchase orders, it would have jumped over these 2 cells and gone straight to the quantity. And if I pressed enter again, it would have jumped over these 2 and gone straight to the price that I want to charge instead. I do apologize for that not working on the demo. But basically, it's a shortcut way of doing your data entry. So there are those columns that you very rarely want to change, such as your location or your unit of measure. It skips over them and takes you to the ones that you do want to enter. And I feel really embarrassed now. That was the last thing I wanted to show you, so I'm finishing my demonstration on a low, but I will hand you back to Danusha unless there are any questions, Danusha.
So we've had a few, and I can answer the first one. So somebody's asked, where can I get a full list of features? So if you go to docs.microsoft.com and search for what's new in Business Central, you'll be able to get all that information there. And then we've also got a few questions that Ian is best placed to answer. So we had a question saying, you've been showing us the SaaS web client. Is this available for the on-premise version?
Yes, this is. So if you're on software as a service, which is the latest offering from Microsoft, you get these updates automatically. So as I say, this is the April update. So anybody who's on SaaS, you should see, if not already, these features should be there or they'll be coming very shortly for you. If you're on premise, it is also available for you. It would require us to do a quick technical upgrade on your system. If you've paid your enhancement fee, it doesn't matter which version of Nav you're on, you're entitled to upgrade to this version of Business Central, and you can have this functionality. But obviously it involves help from T-Vision to get those new objects into your database. If that's something that interests you, give Danusha or Karen a call and she will put you in touch with the consultants who can help you through that.
So someone else has said, all the new functionality looks great. Is it possible to get any training on any of this?
It is possible. Hopefully it's simple enough that you can figure it out yourself, but if you want training on this or anything else for that matter, just give us a call, and either the support or the help desk, whoever's best to give that training, it can be arranged for you quite happily.
We've just had another one come in, and I think we can move on. So any more that come in, we can answer those later on for you. But someone asked, is it possible to customize the screen for everyone? How does that work?
Is it possible? Okay, yes, that's a really nice question. It is possible to customize the screen for everyone. On this customization or my settings button up here, I get the option to design, which takes me into design mode. It lets me change fields, actions, ports of pages, etc. I make any changes that I want, drag things around, change their order, etc. When I stop designing, it would ask me a question, do I want to save this? And it would save this as an extension, which would be available for everyone in your company. And then all the other users, they can choose whether to apply your extension to their screens or not. So you don't force them to use your change. They get the option to say, oh, I like your screen. Can I have a copy of it, please? And they can apply your designs to their pages. That's it. I'm going to hand you back to Danusha for now.
Thanks, Ian. So we always end our webinars on some key takeaways. And so we'd like to leave you with the 5 key takeaways from today's webinar, which we hope will assist you in deciding if and when you want to move across to Business Central. So the first thing we suggest is to review the information. Review this webinar, the list of new and enhanced features that we mentioned previously on the docs.microsoft.com website, and any what's new documents for the versions in between the version you're on and the latest version. Now, if you're on Business Central SaaS, all these features will be available to you with your scheduled update. And if you're on premise, Business Central or Nav, then you have to upgrade or re-implement in order to receive these features. So a question for you. Are any of these new pieces of functionality enough for you to consider moving to the latest version? And finally, do you have any development work which these new features can replace? If you'd like to have a more detailed discussion about what's new in Business Central or moving to the latest version, then please feel free to get in touch. So we hope you found this webinar interesting and informative. As mentioned before, this is the 14th in our series of webinars, and we'll be sending out emails soon to register for the next one. And we'll also have a reminder about this video recording in our next newsletter also. Thank you for attending. And once I've closed this session, a survey will appear. And it'll be great if you could respond with some feedback. If you have any further questions, please feel free to email them to me at marketing@tvisiontech.co.uk. Thank you.